Can y'all hear me, see me? Listen, listen. I am out of breath, but I'm here. I'm here, warriors, because, hey, y'all, I see y'all coming in. Hi, Mama Stu. And I was running from a self-tape audition. That's what we're doing now as actors. And Chad, you know, I took my twists out, but like any warrior that is trying to have a baby child, we don't have time to keep it all together all the time. So listen, y'all getting a hat, you getting a bun. I put on lipstick. Hey, it's Warrior Wednesday. Okay, we're going to get to it. You guys, I have this awesome, wonderful, amazing woman. Her name is Chiquita Lockley. She is a director. She is a producer. She is an egg advocate. She is a women's health advocate. She is a fibroid surgery survivor. And she directed a documentary called Eggs Over Easy, Black Women and Fertility. And I happen to be a part of that documentary, as well as many, many stories of fertility. So she's just going to like have a candid conversation. We're just going to talk about the things that she has learned along the way and all of those wonderful things with Miss Chiquita Lockley. But first, I have a very special guest who is a pulse shooting survivor. She is also an author. She has a book called Survive Then Live, and her name is Patience Murray. And today she has a podcast coming out called Healing Her Halo. And I happen to be a guest on the podcast episode in fertility that comes on today. So I am going to bring her on to say hello and tell us about her podcast very quickly before we have fun. So we're waiting for Patience. With Patience. Lord, do I have makeup on my car? Oh, child, it's a mess, but I'm here. Here she comes. This is Patience Murray, you guys. When she gets here, I want you to give her a lot of hearts and a lot of love. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming in. So I'm just waiting on your Patience. It said connecting. So I hope to see you soon. Let me double check. Is my earring hitting this thing a lot, y'all? And y'all can probably hear it. That might not be good. Let me double check here. Let me make sure. Hi, Phenomenally Autistic. Hi, baby. Hi, Ayana. Okay, let me try you again, Patience. Let's see. I'm going to send a request to her. And let me see if she gets that. Hi!
I have a technical difficulty.
How are you, you beautiful, gorgeous woman? How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us today on Warrior Wednesday. You guys, please give it up and give some hearts to Miss Patience Murray. Patience Murray. Can you tell us a little bit about first of all, you're an author. Yes. And you are a survivor of a very tragic trauma. So can you just let us in to what happened?
So I always start like this because it was that typical girls' night out. So it was my first time going to Orlando, and it was actually my first time being like on a real family vacation, but it was with my friend's family. Okay. So already like a new beginning for me overall. So I was in a really happy place. So that night when we went out to Pulse nightclub, it was random. It was a random selection. So imagine just going on Google, searching 18 and up clubs. I wasn't 21 yet. We weren't 21 yet, so we just looked for somewhere that would let us in. And Pulse was one of those places that had great reviews, the pictures were popping, and we called, and it was only $10 to get in. We were like, okay, we're definitely.
You were like, we going, right.
So once we got there, I tell you, the entire night was awesome. Like, the entire night was amazing up until we were getting ready to go home. Literally 1:58 a.m. We looked to see how far the Uber was, and then all of a sudden we heard gunshots going off in the other. So there was like different rooms. We were in a room that played more urban music, but the music that played more Latin music was in the other room, and that's where the gunshots first started. And then you just heard it getting closer and closer. At that moment, and I'm from Philadelphia, so.
And I'm from Philadelphia. Okay. So just so y'all know, we are the Johns. Just so you know, we are the Johns. But go ahead, Philly chick.
But unfortunately, you know, growing up in Philadelphia, gun violence is at an all-time high. So I never personally experienced gun violence until Orlando, which was strange to me. That was the moment where I would not only be shot in both of my legs, but I would see other people die. And it was just like, I just couldn't believe that God, you know, put me in that place. And not only that, but saved me from that place at the same time. So I struggle with a lot of survivor's guilt and conspiracy theorists, like saying that I wasn't really shot, saying that I wasn't really there, like all sorts of crazy stuff. So I decided to write a book. And it took me 2 years to really develop the idea of what I wanted it to be about, because I just didn't want it to be my story. I wanted to you know, to have lessons in there that I felt like throughout my recovery, I didn't learn until retrospect. So
Whew.
This is the hardcover.
Survived and Live, y'all, by Patience Murray. Well, first of all, let me thank God right now for keeping you with us and for you to have the wherewithal to be able to speak about something so unimaginable. That's something that we see on TV. That's something that we can't even fathom, even in our worst dreams. And you lived through it. And you're brave enough to bring us into it and to share your story. So if y'all could please put up some prayer hands for Patience, because what I want to make sure that we do in this space, since this is a healing space and a support group space, is that we let you know that you now are a warrior for all the reasons. Before we even did Warrior Wednesday, you became a warrior through birth, and God gave you the strength to survive that night. He gave you the voice to put it out into that book. And just know that I'm honored to have this conversation with you, and for all of the warriors here to be able to pray on you and over you. So we touch and agree about your amazingness. So this is amazing. So put the book up again. So it is called
Survive and Live.
Survive and Live. And where can we find the book?
So the book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's pretty much on every retail site where you can buy online books, but Amazon is the most popular place right now.
Okay, so Survive and Live on Amazon, y'all. And so tell me this, Patience, how did we connect? Because you have an episode coming out, but you have a new podcast called Healing Her Halo. And so my mom says, Mama Stu says she's ordering your book. So she's ordering your book. Phenomenally Autistic says she's going to get it. Thank you, ladies. And so can you please tell us about this podcast that's coming out today, Healing Her Halo, and how the conversation that we had on that show?
So the way I found you, first off, is just through the infertility hashtags and looking at different people who are brave enough to share their story about trying to conceive. And the fact that you were from Philly was just like, oh my God, Philadelphia. And she's like open about sharing the story. And I've actually seen her on TV and stuff before, so I'm a fan. And it's just like, oh my God, I didn't think you were going to get back to me, not going to lie. I'm blessed that you did. But from my own journey, my husband and I, we got married August 25th, 2019. And since then, I've been eager, my husband eager also to like start his own football team, but to just have a baby and to have a bunch of babies. So before I knew it, a year went by, we were already celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and people were still asking, where the babies at? Okay, where the babies? And little did they know, I had been trying every month. I first got married, and it just wasn't happening. So, and then just through my own journey of realizing how detrimental it is to not only not have like fertility health information already, but to just go through every month, like thinking that you're pregnant, hoping that you're pregnant, and then seeing a negative pregnancy test is just like a huge letdown. It makes you feel like you're broken.
Yeah, it does. It makes you feel like a failure. Something is wrong with your body, and it's not. Whatever. I mean, we all have situations that may be going on, but it's more about becoming aware so that we can proactively like tackle those situations as best as we can. And so you reached out, and I'm so grateful that you did. So let me publicly say thank you to that. And also just thank you for trusting me with your platform with Healing Her Halo, because, you know, it's
it's humbling and it's nice to be asked to be a guest, but what it really means to me is that someone is saying, I trust your information, I trust your point of view, I trust your spirit with this thing that I am doing, because you birthed the book, you birthed Healing Your Halo. So tell everybody where they can listen, and if you want, before we bring Miss Lockley on, could you just tell like a little snippet of something in that conversation that struck you or stood out to you? Because I was so blessed by that conversation. And I'll talk more about it with Chiquita when she gets on. But can you just tell us where to find it and anything that might have struck you?
So Healing Her Halo is a woman empowerment podcast for trauma survivors. It's about educating and uplifting trauma survivors. And that doesn't just mean like a post-nightclub shooting survivor like me. It means the everyday woman who's going through infertility problems or who's struggling to conceive a baby. These are different topics that I want to talk about. And you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's on every single podcast platform where you can listen to podcasts right now. Spotify and Apple are the biggest ones. So just subscribe, rate, review, and share it with somebody who needs it. Help heal another woman's halo.
Amen. Amen. So what about that conversation struck you? And I think I saw Alex Murray on here. Is that your husband?
That's my husband, yeah.
He said, you phenomenal, girl. He was like, you're amazing, girl. Just so you know, your husband. You better heal that halo, Alex. We love it. So was there one thing about that conversation, since this is a fertility talk that we have, that struck you?
It was actually the snippet that I shared because I felt like it was the most powerful to me about suffering in silence.
Uh-oh, honey, I don't hear you.
My friends actually about this. And I had no idea that she on a son. Like she has a son, so I had no idea.
Uh-oh.
Also,
Patience, I don't know if, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Patience? Okay, there you are. You said you froze for a minute, but you said you had a friend and you said you had no idea that she also. Can you hear me, Patience?
yes. So she has a son. So she already has a son. So I had no idea that she felt similar, emotions the way I felt on her own journey to having a baby. I thought it was just me, literally. I thought it was me in the world who was the only one going through this. But when I talk to you, women do suffer in silence a lot. And these are the topics that we need to talk about more. So thank you for making that a reality to me, that I don't have to suffer in silence anymore, especially not about this. There is a community out there.
There is a community, and we are here. And like I said, we are grateful for you. We're grateful that you survived that night. We thank you, God. We are grateful that you're brave enough to write that beautiful book to teach all of us more about trauma and surviving and then living after surviving. And we thank you for just being a part of this community. Healing Your Halo is out today. You guys go get it at Spotify, at Apple. I'm going to download and subscribe myself right when we're done this. But Patience Murray, my love to you from one Philly girl to another. Alex, take care of our girl. Take care of our girl. So we will connect again. More to come. Okay, Patience? Thank you for joining us. Bye, love.
Okay.
Bye, y'all. Okay, we're going to bring in Chiquita. First of all, isn't she amazing? Listen, the thing about social media is you really don't know who you're going to meet. Sometimes checking those DMs can be a little bit scary, but you know a good soul when you see it. And she is just so lovely and so on it. And you guys, please follow Patience Murray. Please get her book. Please listen to her Healing Her Halo today and future episodes, because this is a woman who has walked a walk, okay, and wants to talk about it. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on my girl. Like I said, the director of Eggs Over Easy, Black Women and Fertility documentary, Miss Chiquita Lockley. Now, this woman is full of information. I want you guys to ask questions. Get ready for them. Put them in the question mark. Type it all up. We just gonna get candid with Miss Chiquita. Hey.
Hello. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, my sister. You better.
How are you?
First of all, I'm not as fly as you with these glasses and this outfit. Yes,
Listen,
ma'am.
tricks and mirrors and tricks.
How are you?
I'm way better today than I was 5 weeks ago.
Yes, and since you brought it up, can you go ahead and let us all know, you guys, Miss Chiquita is had a surgery recently, but it's something that Black women deal with since this is Black women and fertility. Specifically, we get fibroids at a higher rate than any
Mm.
other race of women. So could you please tell us what happened, girl, 5 weeks ago? What happened?
Listen, something awful. No, I'm kidding. I mean, no, it was awful, but you know, it is what it is. Like 80% of Black women will be diagnosed with fibroids by the age of 50. So that in and of itself is just a stunning number. 80% is a lot. 80% means that out of you and 9 friends, 8 of you will have fibroids, and you have to figure out what, if anything, to do about it. So I had actually been diagnosed with fibroids maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It was just one. It was tiny. So my OBGYN, my gynecologist kept an eye on it. I was asymptomatic for years. But in the fall, like about a year ago, at night, I would get up all night long. Like every 2 hours, I would have to go to the bathroom, which is not normal. So I hadn't been sleeping. I went in for my annual. The doctor says we don't know what happened in the 12-month window from your last pap smear, but the fibroids are huge. There are a lot of them. They're everywhere. You're going to have to do something about it. But I couldn't do anything about it because COVID hit.
Wow.
And so we really just made it in the space where there's not a spike. So there was a summer spike, and now we're getting ready for the winter spikes, and I just made it in that window. So I had a open myomectomy, which is an abdominal myomectomy. For people who don't know, it's basically a C-section, and they take out fibroids instead of a baby. And it is traumatizing. For me, it was traumatizing. And I don't know what I thought. I've had friends who've had myomectomies more than once, like repeat myomectomies, because fibroids can grow back. And I don't know why I wasn't thinking this was a real surgery. I knew it was a surgery. I was going to be out for a couple of weeks. No, I am just like feeling better. And it's been 5 weeks.
And it's been 5 weeks, and I'm really glad that you brought that up, because when you said I didn't really know that it was a real surgery, because I think that's what a lot of women think. And also
Yeah.
when they're diagnosed with fibroids, because you can start off something small like a little grape or a little walnut,
Yes.
and
A
you might
cluster
not.
of grapes.
Yeah, right. And you might not be thinking that this is something that is going to progressively get worse. I have heard stories from women passing out on planes because they're
Mhm.
bleeding through a fibroid. I have heard many of stories about it, and I feel like it's something that we need to discuss further, because now when you say
Yeah.
you were asymptomatic,
Yeah.
so were your periods regular?
Yes. So asymptomatic means I did not have the symptom. Well, I didn't know that I was having symptoms. The top symptoms, heavy bleeding. I've never had heavy bleeding in all
Never
my
had
life.
heavy bleeding?
No. Extreme cramps where is this so debilitating that you miss work or you can't get out of bed? No. I always cramped on the first day, and I would take 2 Aleve and go about my business. Like the first few hours would be kind of bad. Now, when I was a teenager, I would have like nausea and that sort of thing. But once I kind of got it under control with the 2 Aleves, at the time they did before Aleves, they would give you naproxen, which is
Mm-hmm.
the drug that is Aleve. So I was prescribed naproxen, and so I would take my little naproxen and go to fifth period or whatever, just resume my life. And so like the heavy bleeding or the cramps that put you in bed for 2 days at a time, I didn't have any of those things. And the reason is, when you have fibroids, they can be in different places. It can be inside your uterus. It can
Or
be in the
out?
lining of the uterus, like the walls inside the lining, or
Mm-hmm.
inside the cavity, or outside on the
Mm-hmm.
outside walls. I think that's called pendicular. Well, that's what I had. So I wasn't having symptoms because they weren't like all inside giving me bad cramps or making me bleed or busting blood vessels and that sort of thing. I wasn't having that. The only thing, I had been anemic forever, and we finally got a handle on anemia. I really wasn't having problems for years, no problems. So it was just surprising to suddenly not be able to sleep through the night. And I didn't know why. And I was thinking, well, this must be a hernia because I've been diligent. My mom and all her sisters had, fibroids. They've all had hysterectomies or partial hysterectomies, some type of a hysterectomy. So I've
Mm-hmm.
always, my cousins and I, and my sister, we've been diligent in just watching our body go and making sure we get our annuals every year. So I've been on top of it. That is why this was such a shocking surprise. I'm doing work in this area, so you would
Mm-hmm.
think that I would know, and I had no idea. And my gynecologist told me after it was over, they ended up pulling 9 fibroids and a cyst,
Woo.
a cyst. And the two largest ones, so when she showed me the picture, which is too graphic for social media, in my opinion, but she showed me the pictures and I was like, oh my God, they're the size of like a lemon and an orange. They're huge. And she said, no, Miss Lockley, Chiquita, I want you to look at this ruler. There was a ruler at the bottom that I didn't pay attention to. She said, look at the ruler. That's not the size of an apple or a plum or whatever. That one is the size of a cantaloupe. And that one is the size of a honeydew melon. And I just kind of paused because I was high at the time. When you're in the hospital, they give you good drugs. It's just when you
They
come
give you the
home,
good stuff,
yeah,
girl.
they're
Yes.
shaking. When you get
Yes.
home, you got a little situation. But at the time, I was on the good drugs. And so I was just shocked, like, oh my God, that's a whole cantaloupe. A cantaloupe is kind of like the size of a baby. So are you saying this was like twins? Yes, yes, Kelly.
Yes. Yes.
Two of them, one was slightly smaller than the other, and then the rest that I thought were grapes were not grapes. That was the orange, the apple. That was the bigger than I was even thinking, because I'm thinking peanuts, grapes, smaller things. No, girl, that's not what was there. I couldn't even figure, like, where was this stuff tucked. So then she tells me that they brought in a surgeon because there was one buried in my back. So, they had to be careful with it, make sure it doesn't hit the spine, and they had to dig it out. It did not show up on the MRI. It did not show up on the ultrasounds. That second largest one was buried. And days later, as I'm like ruminating over what the heck just happened. So they ended up, instead of doing the regular bikini cut surgery, like most, if you have a C-section, they do the little bikini cut. If you have an
Yeah.
open myomectomy, abdominal myomectomy, they usually do the little bikini cut. No, no, ma'am. So they did a vertical cut from my navel down. So I am just trying to sit here figuring out, like, how was this not on the MRI? How was this not anywhere? Because it was hiding behind. Once they lifted my ovaries, they could see all the other stuff back there, and that's what they were. And she kind of was like, you didn't have any pain walking? No, ma'am. I had nothing. So if I would mop or, vacuum, my lower back would hurt. But I thought, okay, I'm way past 40, so this is aging, and I probably need to do yoga and get more flexible. And that's just what it is. That's not what
Right.
it was. It
That's
was
not
a
what it was.
whole small child sitting in my back, and I had no idea whatsoever. So the surgery ends up being this bigger thing than I even knew. So the
Then you
recovery was,
even were rolled in there for, I need all of y'all to put, because this is Black women and fertility, because we're going to get into the movie too, but I need all y'all to
yeah,
put some fists up for Miss
yes.
Lockley, because here is the thing that when I'm listening to you, I can't help but think Black women, women in general, but Black women are amazing, and what our bodies can endure. Because it's
Who
really
knew?
easy. Who knew? It's really easy to look at a situation like this and feel so bad and so down about it, and feel like there's no way out, and how could it, whatever. But also to look at you sitting here right now with these fly glasses, all these fists are going up. Mama Stu says she loves you. She got her
Hey,
fist.
Mama
But
Sue.
yes, Mama Stu in the building. They're putting a bunch of fists. Thank you, y'all. What I love about this conversation is because it talks about the health and the resilience of us as a people and as women, and to be able to know that your body is strong enough to have hid stuff from you that you didn't even know you needed removed.
Didn't even
But
know.
God was kind, and they got it done. and it happened and you are okay. So now I need you to tell me and tell everybody on here, because if women have not experienced fibroids like myself, then we know somebody who has. If
Yes.
a man is on here whose wife hasn't, or his sister hasn't, or his friend hasn't, we know somebody who has. So what do we need to know about the recovery process, and how can we aid our family member, our friend? Because like you said, we don't know how much of a surgery it is. So tell us what we need to know so
Okay.
we can
So
support.
right now, for women who are having surgery right now, I have a friend who's having surgery right now. As a matter of fact, when I was in the hospital, it was myself and two of my cousins who had similar. We all had a fibroid issue and had different levels of the surgery, all within a 7-day window, which is insane. And
Are you
this is
guys
not
all
these are
around the same age? Are you all around the same age?
35 to 47. The oldest one is 47. So like 30, a 10-year age
Oh,
range.
in a 10-year, and you're all related. Uh-huh.
Well, actually, these are my cousins by marriage, which is why it's
Okay.
so 80% is 80%. So it's the people you know. So we are all, in this. Our moms are on the phone, like, well, how is this one doing? Well, this is happening with her pain levels. And, they were all on three-way for a couple of weeks. But so that was happening. And this is what I would say specifically with urgency for people who are having surgeries now. You are in the hospital by yourself. So what they told me is someone can drop you off. So I had to be dropped off at 5:30 in the morning. My surgery was at 9. So my mom and my aunt Linda, they dropped me off. And when we get there, the person working the desk was like, oh, you can go back with her for 30 minutes. This is the blessing of God. So my mother comes back with me. They let her stay for 2 hours, which I don't know if they forgot she was in this room with me. I really
But
don't know.
mama wasn't leaving.
I'm just grateful she was in the corner praying. I was in the corner shaking and nervous. And then as soon as that 2 hours was up, so one of my line sisters who's in the documentary, Dr. Karen Johnson, she's an OBGYN, and this was the hospital that she used to work at. She just moved a year ago. So I had given her a heads up, like, who do we know at this hospital? Because I'm going to be by myself. So she had called her surgical assistant, who still works at the hospital. And this woman comes running around the corner right as they're telling my mother she has to leave. And she's like, I'm here. Dr. Karen sent me to make sure you're okay. I'm on your surgery today. Another miracle. This woman was an angel. And that was when I calmed down. So once I saw her, I'm like, you know what? It's going to be what it's going to be. I was praying. I was singing. There's this song. Tasha Cobbs Leonard has a new album. It's a song called Oh My God. And it's just talking about the miraculous wonders of God and when God shows up. And I had that. It was just playing in my mind. And this angel lady ran around the corner, snatched me up, and the surgery, they're like, count to, I don't know what they said. I was out but before they finished the sentence. And then I woke up. Once I'm in the room, because nobody can come and recover with you. So outside of COVID, your family, it can come when when you're in recovery, when you're coming out of anesthesia. My mother was on the phone. I could hear her. They had her on speakerphone. Like that's what the new protocol is for now. So that was comforting, but it was nobody there. And
Not the same.
yeah, so you just need to be aware. These little things, they never crossed my mind. So that's why I'm like, everybody, if you have to do it within the next 9 months or so, be prepared. So at least your mind, you can wrap your mind around it. So once they got me to the room, however many hours later, once I woke up, what I realized is the nurses have tons of people like who are in worse condition. They have people who had like, not that this wasn't a big surgery because it was, but people who they in comas and stuff. Like they have a different set of medical issues. So every time I would ring the bell, so the first 24 hours I was on a catheter, so I didn't have to get up, and that was fine. And I jokingly say, but I'm dead serious, my saving grace was my iPad. You could take your phone, your iPad, and your charger, so don't forget that, and some chapstick. So I had that as a saving grace. And then I think it was TV One, or Bounce TV, some TV station was running a Tyler Perry Madea marathon for like 24 hours or whatever.
And you was getting your life.
Yes, and it was comforting to me. I'm like, this is soul food for me right now. So it is what it is. So thank you, Tyler, for getting me through those 24 hours. But
People are
after that,
actually saying to you, they're actually saying to you, I mean to cut you off, I didn't even think about that. Be prepared for the new isolating protocol. So
yes,
that's a really
yes.
good tip. It's a
And
really
that's
great
what
tip.
exactly. That's what I've been just trying to tell everybody. So once Medea wasn't with me and going into my 48 hours, I really was by myself. So the nurses, they'll come and check on you, but you're on the IV. So that meant every 2 to 3 hours, I had to go to the bathroom by myself.
Mm.
Which means when they give you compression sleeves on your legs, right? Any surgery, I had to figure out how to take the compression, bend over in a bed with open stitches, like I am completely open,
Whew.
to take these compression sleeves off. Where if my mother or my aunt or my sister, if somebody was there with me, they would have done this for me. They would help me get up. I had a wristband. I still have it for show and tell. This says
Amen.
fall risk. Okay, fall risk means I can probably fall. I shouldn't be up
Yes.
by myself, but there was nobody to help me. So you either gonna go in this bed or you're gonna figure it out. So it took a long time. Every time I would press the nurses button and they would get there after everything was over usually. But you're on the IV pole, you're on the heart monitor pole, and you gotta like manage all this stuff and still get to the bathroom however many times you need to go. And the first time going already was scary and excruciating, but I was there for right under 3 days. So if it was 72 hours, they let me out like at 8 p.m. on that third day. So I wasn't there the third night. Thank God.
Whew.
But it was just mentally draining, emotionally draining. I was praying the whole time, just trying to stay calm. My mother and my aunt called, and I'm like, "Where are you guys?" And they sent a picture. They were outside in the parking lot praying. This was like on day 2 or 3 because they couldn't get in. So in addition to you just like knowing, okay, you got to have a surgery and you wrap your mind around it. We're in this space where you also got to do all this by yourself. You're in
See,
there by yourself.
this is such, first of all, y'all, if y'all don't give her some hearts for getting through this, because see, God gives you the grace. He gives you exactly what you need when you need it. But
Yes.
to not really think about what it's like to have any procedure done in the time of COVID and a pandemic, and because just somebody sitting in a hotel, in a hospital room opposite you is comforting. Just when
Yes.
your mama or your friend is there reading their magazines, it's comforting. And to know that you had to do this on your own and get yourself safely into recovery mode at home,
Yes.
I just bless God for. And so before we switch gears, it took you how long resting at home before you started to feel, people are saying, strengthen you, my sister? Exactly. Like, because
Yeah.
this is the spirit of us.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that we need in all of our health journeys, so that's why it is so important to highlight the spirit in you that did that. So what was after that? You're home now. It takes you about 5 or so weeks to really start to
So
feel.
the first 3 weeks, so my doctor had told me that it would take 2 weeks for me to feel better. It took 3 weeks. So I had
Okay.
only asked, so when my mother and aunt were like, well, how long do we, because they're retired. So they're like, well, how long do we need to be there? I said 1 week because I am like a strong black woman and I just figured I could figure it out. I had gone grocery shopping. I prepped my kitchen. Everything was low enough. I wouldn't have to reach up in the cabinets. So I thought I would be okay in 1 week. The doctor said too. So when I told them that, my aunt and mother switched off, so somebody was here. My mother ended up being here for the 2 weeks, and she left on my birthday. They left the day after my birthday, which was they left on Halloween. So that was the end of my basically 2.5 weeks. I could walk around. I couldn't drive. I
Mm.
couldn't like make my bed. I could stand up. You just get like so drained, like drained quickly. It took me 10 days to actually post on Facebook. And I'm on social media pretty regularly. This is
Yes.
what I would say to that. You asked what could friends and family do like once you're in the situation. texting, that was good, and don't anticipate a response text. I would be reading the text and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm gonna be all right. This person sent me a scripture. This person, is thinking about me. And I would go to sleep in the middle of a response like it was nothing. Part of that was I was on Percocet. Another thing, you need to know what medications work for you and what don't. I haven't had a big surgery, so I didn't know. Now we know Percocet does not work for me. So it caused like major nausea, like projectile vomiting, just it was all bad. But I would still come back to my phone when I had energy and people texting me and sending me notes or whatever. That made me feel good. I just didn't have the energy to respond back. So it took 10 days for me to even post like, hey guys, this is happening and X, Y, and Z. So I would say within the first 2 to 3 weeks, I was no good for anything or anybody. And going into the 4th week, I drove to the corner. I needed to go to the bank, so I drove to the corner. And I didn't feel bad. When I woke up the next day, it was like everything was on fire from just a 5-minute drive, and I did not expect that at all whatsoever. So that little drive to the corner
Wore
shifted some
you
stuff
out.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was on fire. I had to take pain meds, ibuprofen at that point, to just calm the area back down. And so now Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day this is, yesterday, that was my 5th week, and I felt better. And so like I drove to Publix and I didn't hurt the next morning when I got up like 2 days ago. So I'm feeling better. But I still haven't like been outside. This is gonna be the full 6 weeks. I haven't resumed my workload because I'm
But you're
still
here and
trying
you're
to
here
figure.
with us. So we cannot thank you enough, y'all, because Miss Lockley had a myomectomy, an open myomectomy, fibroid surgery. And like you said, 80% of
Yes,
Black women will experience fibroids. And one of the things, now I know that you know Dr. Cindy Duke, and then I'm really going to switch gears
yes,
to the Eggs Over Easy film that you directed, that I happen to be in.
yes.
What was I going to say is that, Dr. Duke and I were talking one time on one of the Warrior Wednesday lives about the fact that some young women, now you didn't experience this, but that are getting their cycles for the first time. So if there's any moms on here, or if you know of any moms, women, young girls that are having very painful periods, and sometimes in the African American community, we think that that's normal, that that's
It's not.
natural. I've had friends that when they were 12 years old had to stay home from school because they would get bad periods. So once a month they would stay home for 2 days, and it always felt like, well, that's just what happens. You're a woman that has bad periods. Y'all, let me get close so you can hear me. Y'all,
Tell them.
that's not normal. It's not normal. When you are experiencing pain to the point that you cannot function, there is an underlying issue. And in her case, that was fibroids. And she didn't know until later on in her life. And of course, when she's trying to get pregnant, and then we have to do the surgeries and all the things. So if you know moms, if you are moms, don't tell your daughters it's normal to have really bad
It's
periods.
not.
It is not. So now we are going to switch gears.
Yes.
So I'm gonna tell them. So this is how I met Miss Lockley. So I was in Atlanta, where you are. Are you in Atlanta right now? So
I'm in Atlanta.
I was in Atlanta, and I was shooting a film with Miss Keisha Knight Pulliam that y'all might
Yes.
remember from the Cosby Show, and I started running my mouth about fertility, because I always do, running my mouth with her and her little baby girl. And she came to me
Hello.
one day and said, I have somebody that I need you to meet, because she's doing a documentary called Eggs Over Easy, Black Women in Fertility. And Keisha narrates the documentary. And I said, oh, I would love to, and I want to be a part of it, whatever I can do to help. So then we connected, and then found out we have another mutual friend,
So
Miss
neat.
Sunny, my homegirl from my sanctuary, who I'm on text with all the time in prayer, that So it was like God just brought all of these connections together. So before we get into it, tell us, what is Eggs Over Easy documentary about, and why did you feel the purpose to do it?
Okay, so eggs over easy, Black women and fertility. It's a feature documentary. It's full length, 90 minutes at this point, and it's basically a survey of fertility for Black women. It is not infertility, because we do not only like focus on not being able to have a child or the steps to take to have a child. Part of the fertility conversation is not wanting a child, and that includes wanting to get your tubes tied. And if you're under 40 and you don't have children, having to jump through hoops to do it. And some of those hoops include having your husband, assuming you are straight and have a husband, sign off his permission for you to have your tubes tied, and having a psych consultation, which is nuts to me. In 2020, you still have to do that. So yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
and wait, you see me flailing and going crazy. You better
Yes.
go ahead and put it on here, Mama Stu. I know you better put it on here, because this happened to my mother after I was born. She wanted to
Whoa.
have her tubes tied, and the
See?
doctor, they would have to have my father sign an agreement for that, because they were married, and get mental consultation about it, because what the, all of the things. And my mother said, I mean, my mother looked at him like, you will be fully divorced by the time I leave this
If you
hospital
don't
if you don't
find it.
sign this thing. You don't get to tell me what to do with my
Yes.
body. And so to know that is still happening.
Yes, 2020 is still happening. So one of the people we interviewed about that topic is my line sister Tracy, DJ Monday Blue. Tracy would tell me she had been trying to get her tubes tied since she was like 30. And it's not that I didn't believe her, but I'd never heard it before, and nobody else was complaining about it. So it just didn't really sink in with me. So after, once she was married and then divorced, she really pushed forward. Like, I know I don't want to have children. I don't ever want to have them. I love them. I'm a good godmother, and that is all I'm doing.
And it's
And the
normal and it's
hurdle,
wonderful. It's
yeah, that was
normal.
her choice.
That's her choice and her joy.
Yes.
Keep going.
So she could not find a doctor who would tie her tubes, and she may have been like 37 or 38 at the time, or right under 40. She couldn't find one. So we started looking, and she's like, well, she found somebody off the back page of a Reddit post. How is this how we're finding? Like, it would be like when abortion was prohibited, during the prohibition of abortions, and you had to go sneak and like find a doctor. It is like that. You gotta go sneak and try to find a doctor, because
Find
many
a
doctors,
doctor. So a man
yeah,
can have a vasectomy, y'all. Listen to
in
what this
15
is.
minutes,
In
yes.
15 minutes, a man can have a vasectomy, but a woman cannot opt to have her tubes tied, which is the same thing, to make herself sterile so she does not have to worry about getting pregnant. Do you guys understand how much voting is extremely important? And this is why, even with the new Supreme Court judge, they talked a
Yes.
lot about Roe versus Wade, and that she was a threat to that. And she is. But you
Yes.
also have to understand that it's also about assisted reproductive measures that people are against, meaning IVF,
Yeah.
IUI. These
Yes.
are the laws, you guys, that are under attack. It is not just about abortion becoming illegal, it is also about assisted IVF
Yes.
being possibly that. So here we are in 2020, and a woman cannot find a doctor to give her to tie her tubes. Keep going.
Yeah. So that is why it's not infertility. It is fertility, because we run the gamut from not wanting to have them and being able to do nothing about it, to wanting to have them and having to go through so many, steps and try to find money and all of that. And then I guess at the base level, because we couldn't do a deep dive on any of the topics really, because there's just so many topics that nobody ever had that conversation with us about. So it was important to me to just say, hey, y'all, pay attention. And these are the things you need to pay attention to. Now, someone else could come and do a whole documentary on fibroids. They could do a whole documentary on IVF. There's enough content. There are enough stories. But for the purpose of this film, we just want to start the conversation, and give you some tools, especially younger women. I look back when I was in my like mid 20s to mid 30s at how much money I spent traveling, because I was like hashtag Black girls traveling, wanting to see the world, which is fine. It's perfectly fine. Had I known I should have been freezing my eggs and like maybe doing something else with my money, this would be a different conversation now. But I didn't know that. So
Mm-hmm.
for younger women, especially like millennials and even some like Gen Z, the older ones, start paying attention. Because if you're out of college, Felicia Fant, she's one of the EPs on the documentary, she says it best. The same way that you're planning for your career, plan for your fertility. And that might mean you don't want kids. That's fine. You may change your mind later, but you need to at least be planning for it. So when you plan your $10,000 vacation, fertility is going to be like 18 to 25 on a given day. That's just for freezing, possibly for IVF. So where's that money coming from? You got to pay storage fees on your eggs. Where is that money coming from? You might have a great job who covers your IVF. You need, or your egg freezing rather, and or IVF. So you need to like actually read your health insurance benefits so you know what you got. So while you're there or even choosing a job, do you want to choose to work here where for 5 years you're going to work 80 hours a week and not have time to have a life and find a man or have a family? Or here, and they have no benefits for your fertility. Or here, where you still gonna work 80 hours and, you know, have to figure out your time, but at least they're paying for you to go in and freeze your eggs after your first 60 days of working there. You're 22 making this decision. You're 25 making this decision. So this is not like an old lady conversation. This is a Black woman conversation. And if you are in your 40s and you have mentees or daughters or nieces who are in their mid-20s to mid-30s, have this conversation. We're home for the holidays and you're probably home, you know, with your small group. Hopefully you're not having huge family blowouts. So y'all are going to be on Zoom anyway. Go into a room and talk to the girls and just, you know, give them a heads up. Are you paying attention to your body? Are you having cramps that are too bad? Like, do you need to go see your doctor? Did you go see your doctor? If you're fine and you have a great job, what is your fertility plan? And you're 25 and not thinking about it now, this is an insurance policy. So you should probably consider egg freezing, or at least know what it is. So you won't be 40 like, oh, well, I didn't know. You'll know, and knowledge is power, so you can make better decisions for your life. So this is a Black women's conversation.
It is a Black women's conversation, and what needs to happen is we need to continue to be putting it out there that way, because whenever we hear about the fertility conversation in the broad sense of the world, we always see a white woman's face attached to that. And the reality is everything that she is talking about, y'all, is so awesome. So please put a lot of eggs up there. Because, and even within the different age ranges, also, you can always get your AMH and your FSH levels tested, your anti-Müllerian hormone and your follicle stimulating hormone tested. What you just said about this is what I wish I had known in my 30s, which is why I wrote the movie 29 Eggs that I wrote, because that is, I wish that I had known to be proactive about my fertility earlier. There are a lot of myths out there. Yes, your fertility women, and I mean, I know you can say this with me because you already know that we are born with as many eggs as we're ever going to have. Y'all, we don't make more. We don't make more, okay? And I also want the men on here, if you're on here, to make sure that you too become a part of a woman's conversation and your own. Because here's the reality. Men account for 40% of infertility when it's a man and a woman trying to get pregnant. And when a woman is not getting pregnant after trying for a year, the woman automatically feels the shame and automatically thinks it's her and that something is broken in her. That is not always the case. So stop it, cut it out. Men, you have to get your sperm checked because it ain't always the best swimmers going around there. And also, if you have women in your life, little sisters, little nieces, little whatever, speak to them about planning, because what you spoke about earlier, and I don't mean to go on too much, is about those finances of traveling and all of that. We put it on us, right? My brother called me after a Warrior Wednesday. His daughter is 11. And he said, you know what, sis? The same way I put a college fund away for her, I'm going to put an egg freezing fund away for her. Because I just learned from watching this that it's my responsibility as her father to make sure that she has the options to live the best life that she
That's
can.
beautiful. Yes.
I've had men on my DM that were in relationships with women, knew they weren't going to marry that woman, knew she wanted a baby, and didn't realize until after they'd see one of my lives or something that, oh my God, I think I kind of like wasted a little bit of her time, but not knowingly. And she didn't know what she needed to know, but wanted to be a part of her possibly financing a fertility journey. So, you guys, AMH and FSH levels, okay?
Yes.
Those blood tests, they're very simple blood tests, will give you an understanding of your ovarian reserve so that you can plan ahead. At age 37 is when I froze 29 eggs in one cycle. And the other thing I'm going to say until I move on for my next question is that we need to normalize the different ways we create babies. So y'all go to baby showers all the time, and you spend hundreds and thousands of dollars celebrating everybody else's choices and pregnancies. Throw yourself an egg shower. If you are trying to find out how to finance all of this, throw yourself an egg shower. Order some pizzas and some punch. The people that love you will show up.
Yes.
And register at paypal.com. Tell them what it is. Don't be ashamed of it. I want to have a baby one day. This is my shower. Throw yourself an egg freezing shower or whatever it may be. So now I want to move on to the film. Is there something in Eggs Over Easy? And I want y'all to follow at Eggs Over Easy Film on Instagram and at Kita Writes so that you can follow this wonderful woman.
Quitawrites.
Spell it one more time so they know.
Quitawrites. Like it's right. Like you write with an ink pen.
Perfect. Yes. Tell me something in your journey of directing this. How was it emotionally for you? What are some of the stories that you heard that really struck you in this world of fertility of Black women?
So the whole director thing, I consider myself a director by default because I didn't have a budget to hire a director. I have a master's in film studies, but that was like so I could be a teacher and a film critic. I had no intentions of directing anything ever, but here we are. So with the stories, an interesting thing about them, I knew almost everybody I interviewed. So this wasn't I didn't have to reach or go far for this. These were my people. We just weren't talking about it. So like I knew about the miscarriages, I knew about the stillbirths, I knew about who was trying, who wasn't, because these are my close friends. Which goes back to like we're not having the conversations, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. These things are happening. We're not talking about it. So I think the biggest thing for me, it wasn't new information. It was having people who were kind enough to what the purpose of what I felt I was being led to do with this film, but also who were just, they look at the big picture and say, okay, I'm going to have, because they had to go back and revisit their pain. So that was the crux of I guess what I'm getting to. So I knew the stories. I would never ask them to go back and revisit their pain. It wasn't something I even really thought about until I'm sitting there and I knew the interview questions because I knew the stories, and they had to go back to those moments. That was difficult. Editing it, that was difficult because I had to keep reliving. One of my line sisters, I sung at her daughter was born, stillborn, and I sung at the funeral. There was we did a whole funeral. So having to go back to those moments, that was what was difficult. But I was just so grateful. I had like I think another level of or depth of gratitude because they knew that other people needed to hear the stories, and so they agreed to go back to like the most painful things that ever happened to them to retell the story so that somebody else could like not feel alone and they could get their healing as well. So I think that was kind of, if there was an eye-opening experience, that's what it was, just revisiting such hurtful places, but knowing and keeping in mind that the big picture is somebody else is going to be blessed by this. They won't feel alone by it. The fact that all these women, so if 50% of women or first-time pregnancies are miscarriages, and that might not be the right number, it could be higher, but I think it's about 50%. are
Mhm.
miscarriages. These women go to work after 2 days. They just go
Mhm.
back to work. They go back to choir rehearsal. They go back to being girlfriend or being wife or being your best friend. They go back to brunch
And
and never
sometimes
mention it.
it's a chemical pregnancy, and sometimes it's a pregnancy where they miscarry and they have to wait a couple days to get a D&C done.
Yeah,
And so you have to go back to your life knowing that the baby is no longer has a heartbeat, but you got to
yeah,
go to work Monday and Tuesday because your D&C isn't scheduled the moment
exactly.
that the baby miscarries. So these are the things that we go through. And from that
Silently,
standpoint,
that we go through
silently,
silently.
because what happens is that the weight of sadness, grief, depression, all the things that are going on that you can't even process. Let's talk a little bit about two things. Faith. How has faith worked in your journey, going through the myomectomy, going through um, being a director of this film and talking to women publicly? And what is the conversation of faith in this? Since we just talked about the miscarriages and
Mhm.
also the horrible statistics that are true, that Black women maternal deaths are 3 times more likely to die during birth, pregnancy, or, and what a lot of people don't know is that maternal deaths also includes 1 year after giving birth,
Yes,
should
yes.
during postpartum. And so technically, but can you talk a little bit about, because these are the things we deal with as women, but as Black women, the disproportionate health care as Black women, going through things on our own. Talk about faith in your
So there are
journey.
two things that were important to me in the film where faith is concerned, and then I'll talk about my actual faith walk with the film. Two things. The first is people will always say, like, if you're trying to have a baby, they'll say go pray about it. And you should pray about it and have faith because, like in the Bible, these women were old and they got pregnant. And what that does sometimes, it many times, is take out the works part, because faith without works is dead, right?
It's
So the
dead.
work
Faith without
part,
works is
you
dead.
need to go to a doctor. You need to get your AMH and FSH. You need to see an IV, like a reproductive endocrinologist, and not just the Walgreens take care clinic. Like, you need to do actually put into practice, make a list. There's some stuff you have to do. So yes, have faith and have works, because faith without works is dead. And that
Y'all
was
see why
important
I
to
called
me.
her? Y'all see why I called her? Keep talking. Go ahead.
Well, that was important to me to say because
Yes.
I have watched so many people. There was a woman who I think is just incredible. She was like 52 and still believing in faith for a pregnancy. And I asked her, what did the doctor say? And she said, we're believing in faith. And that just, this was early on. This was like when I was just, I knew this was an assignment, and I knew I was going to do this film. It was just going to be a shorter version. I knew it, but I didn't want to do it because I knew it was going to be time consuming, and I just wasn't in a place where I wanted to even have the conversation. Not with myself, not with my friend, with anybody. I knew it. And so in this moment, this woman is telling me this, and I just kind of made a note of it because my heart broke, because what I was thinking is, 15 years ago, we didn't have the advancements that we have now, but there was something. And the doctor could have probably said something that could possibly have helped. That's faith, but there wasn't the works part of it.
Works. Come on,
So,
Keita. You better speak it.
so that was important for me to say. And then the flip side of that was to have a little faith. So there's a balance here. So part of what we showed in the film, the couple we follow, and they are still working towards pregnancy, they got faith like I have never ever seen before. So her medical diagnosis was just dismal, and they still kept fighting and kept fighting and kept doing these things. And so I wanted to show that part of it. And we had a prayer service at William Murphy's church, the Dream Center in Atlanta, and he asked anybody who wants to come down to pray with the couple, but also if you had a vision like for your family and you want kids and it's not been happening for you, to come down. And so several other families came down. a year later, because I wasn't, you know, around the people that much. So a year later, I walk in for a meeting, a staff meeting with the pastor, and this guy, who you'll see in the film, he's like, "Oh, we had a boy." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So it turns out that there are like 5 or 6 of the maybe 8 couples who were there that night. They all had babies. One of them, what they weren't even trying, or 2 of them weren't even trying. They came down to pray with the couple that was trying, and then they were like, "Okay, well, let's try." So some of these were IVF babies where they had cycles that didn't work, and they just kept believing. And then some of them were, we didn't even try. We probably shouldn't have went down there that night. But there is faith in this. I believe that God is always at work. And I trust God's timing. So of the maybe 8 couples who came down, literally 3 of them have had babies within October, the month of October.
Amen.
So that is just mind blowing. So faith plays a huge part in terms of my faith walk with the film. Like I said, this wasn't something that I was really trying to do. And I kept saying, okay, initially I said I have $15,000 that I could put on this film and do it short, because I know films are expensive. I've been producing for years now. And even if something is only a 15-minute, 10-minute movie, that took $15,000 to $20,000. I know how much films cost. And so I was not interested in this investment, this personal investment. So I kind of just gave it a go. If you want it, it'll happen. And so many miracles happened that I started a journal, because I didn't ever want to forget. So I would need a venue and not have one. I would get a random text, "Hey, come through. I want you to see my new studio." It would just be crazy, just so random and crazy. So then I needed like $15,000 to do my first edit. So I posted a Kickstarter in the month of October during homecoming.
Come on, work.
So I just was like, okay, I'm going to put up this Kickstarter because I don't have another $15,000. I'm done. I still have a mortgage. So this is not how this party is going down. I posted it. It went like crazy. All of my friends sent it to a friend, sent it to a friend. And the only thing I posted, my birthday is the end of October. So I said, instead of giving me birthday gifts or a Cash App or whatever, just support the film. Here's the Kickstarter link. I woke up on like the day before my birthday. I think we were maybe 2,000 from 15, which in and of itself was hugely surprising. I don't even know how it happened, but God. So I wake up on my birthday, and my line sisters had pushed us over the line. So I ended up with like 17,000 on the Kickstarter campaign that I wasn't even ever planning to do, but that let me pay for my first edit and pay to get like just a 3 to 4 minute clip so that I could go out and say, "Now can y'all give me some money?" So it was just little things, even down to you. That whole thing was a miracle. Once I knew we were going to interview you, and you were going to come to Atlanta, but I needed to pick up a couple other things in LA. So I am like panicking, like, how am I going to pay for this? I can pay for my flight. I need cameras. I need this, and this. And you were like, "Oh, my boy, he could shoot it for you." So that every little thing is a miracle. It's all in my journal. Like, how? And then when I get there, he's like, "Oh, well, we're not going to use the small camera. We're going to use all 20 of these cameras because I was shooting a horror film last night and I still have the cameras." And then he called a friend and was like, yes, that was. So he called a friend and was like, "Yo, work the lights for me." Like, it was back to back to back to back. Andra Day, we asked Andra Day for a song. She's like, "Oh, what y'all doing? Oh, yep. I got a story." So now I get an interview with Andra Day. So
yeah, she was there the day that you interviewed me. Andra was there.
Yes, yep. Yes, she came through. Yes, we used the same house, which by the way ended up being beautiful. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know where we're gonna shoot. And Damu was like, "Okay, here's the address." I roll up and it's like a mini mansion and it's beautiful inside. I didn't have to do anything, no flowers, no props, nothing. The house is just beautiful.
Just so y'all know, I don't even know it. You know this, but just so y'all know, the house that we were at was Tracy Toms, actress Tracy Toms, who's a very good friend of
Tracy Toms. I watch her on TV every night.
Yes, you see her on TV. She was also played Joanne in the movie Rent, so we did it there. And I see a bunch of people here, and I just think that we should do this. If y'all, hey, Deidre, I see you, girl. And then I see a gentleman that said that that it's been 12 years of trying for my wife and I, but we are keeping the faith. And so because we have this faith conversation happening in this moment, if you need prayer, because this is what I believe, what happened when you said I wrote down all the miracles, I get real emotional, all the miracles, because I didn't want to forget.
Yeah.
And I think when we are pushing towards a goal, sometimes we focus on the lack because we don't have the thing yet. So we oftentimes are too distracted to see how far we've come.
Yes.
And I loved what you said about, I wrote down all the miracles that were happening because I didn't want to forget what God was already doing. I've recently, in my faith walk, just to share with y'all, have been challenged because for those that don't know that are joining, I froze my eggs when I was 37 years old to preserve my fertility and give myself time. And now, because I'm in my 40s, a lot of people say to me, well, what are you going to do? When are you going to have this baby? Well, did you ever think about sperm donorship? Maybe a friend could do. What you going to do, girl? What you going to do? When?
All the questions.
And all the questions. And it reminds me of when a couple first gets married and the first question they get is, when's the baby coming? It's this unnecessary pressure that comes on to the person. And what I realized, because this is from well-meaning people that love me, that are saying,
yes.
well, what you're going to do? I think you should just, you know what? I see you just doing this on your own. And maybe the baby comes, the man comes later. And my spirit never was at ease in these conversations. And I also didn't have the courage. I'm going to be very honest with y'all. I didn't have the courage to say, that's not my walk. And though you're coming to me from a place of love, it actually is adding pressure to the situation. I didn't have the courage because I didn't want to hurt them because they were trying to help me.
Yeah.
But this is what I realized. They were talking to me about my circumstances. She's single, she wants to have a baby, and she's a certain age. But they weren't talking to me about what God can do with my circumstances. Because if you pay attention to my circumstances, then you are coming from looking at it with a place of lack. She lacks the partner. She lacks the husband. So that's why you're coming with, would you just do it on your own? But I'm coming with what God is capable of, which is all things. And I froze my egg. So when you ask me, what are you going to do? I already did it. I froze my eggs. That's what I'm doing. And I'm believing God for the whole thing because that's what he told me. I journey with all the women that go at it on their own. Women have inseminated themselves at home. Women have decided to become single mothers by choice. All of those things. I'm the biggest cheerleader for that. It's not my truth. It's not my Kelly Stewart's truth. And so what I learned in my faith walk, as I share with y'all, is that you have to be careful who you let speak into your life. And you have to hear what you and God have been talking about. And don't let somebody else's story or what they want for you become your story. Because then you're not walking in your truth. If God one day tells me, do it by yourself, you know I'm going to be the first one to do it. But until that happens, I got to go with what he says, not what my circumstances say. So if you are on here dealing with a circumstance, I need you to just write, pray for me. Because there's power in the cosign. There's power in what Miss Lockley has said about writing down the miracles so that you don't forget. So say, pray for me so that we can, in this moment, be able to send that energy your way. And just real quickly, a little miracle thing. My cousin, a man, had cancer and recovered. Met a woman on a train who's 5 years older than him. She was divorced with 2 kids. Her second child was an IVF baby. She went to hook him up with a friend of hers because he was a nice guy on the train that said hello to her every morning. And he spoke to this young lady on the phone. And the next morning she said, how did it go? My friend really liked talking to you. And he said, there was only one problem. I wasn't talking to you. So she said, me? I'm too old for you. She was in her 40s. He said, no, I wasn't talking to you. So they started dating. And 5 years later, they got married. And he asked, can we try for a baby? I know I didn't freeze my sperm with the radiation. And I know you're a certain age, but maybe just for 1 year. So homegirl was like, sure, because she just knew. Ain't gonna happen. I'm 45, 46 years old. He's a cancer survivor. It ain't gonna happen. Girl, she was pregnant on the honeymoon. Okay?
See?
Back on the
God's
plane,
timing.
pregnant. God can do all things. So as we wrap this up, is there anything specifically that you want to say to Black women? Since you've talked to so many of us, I want to thank you on behalf of us for giving us that platform, for doing the work and making sure you got that movie made. Y'all, I need you to go follow Eggs Over Easy. But what do you want to say to the Black women that are here?
I think the biggest thing, well, two things. One, keep talking, keep talking, keep talking about these topics, these issues. Even with your friends who don't talk back, they may not say anything back to you. They're processing it, but at least now they know that they can talk to you if they want to. I had a friend who, after doing one of these lives, she dropped in our group chat, that she'd lost a baby, and we talked every single day, and didn't know that she had a few months prior lost a baby. What my takeaway was is thank God that we at least kept talking about it until she felt comfortable to talk about it. So keep talking about it, even if they're not your friends and family aren't responding. You never know who just needed to know that if or when they're ready to have the whatever conversation, they can have it with you. So so that's the first part. The second part is take care. And we say it all the time, oh, take care, or like when you're leaving somebody, oh, take care. You may sign it on your emails, take care. No, for real, take care. Take care of yourselves, and we take care of everybody. Take care of yourselves from the emotional part of just so you don't burn out. It might not even be about fertility. Just make sure that you're taking care of yourself so you don't burn out. If that means you need to go call a therapist, which I highly recommend, especially for Black women in this
I
country.
love mine.
Um, Yes, shout out to Robin May wherever you are. But take care of yourselves, and then we're in a better position to take care of other people. And if you have not had a pap smear in the past 12 months, go to the doctor. Yes, COVID is here, but they are taking precautions. They make sure you fill out the form before you go to the doctor to say if you've been around anybody, if you got a fever, if you got a cough or whatever. Y'all need to go to the doctor because things happen when you don't. If 20 pounds, well, it wasn't really 20, but if all these fibroids could just be growing randomly in my body and some of them I didn't know about, I just wonder what would happen if I never even went to the doctor, if I never even had an appointment. So please take care.
I love that. Please take care. Leave no egg behind. And I see a bunch of people saying to pray for me, pray for me. And that's exactly what we're going to do. That's how we're going to close this out because my battery's about to die, but not before I say this. If you would like to bow your head and close your eyes or get on your knees or put your hands up, do so. Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for this community today. I want to say thank you for patience. Thank you for Miss Lockley. Thank you for Eggs Over Easy. And thank you for everyone that is joining now and that will hear later. We want to touch and agree, Lord, in your power.
Yes.
That all things are working together for the good of those seeking to be parents and show love through your will. In the journeys of IVF, in the journeys of single mothers by choice, in the journeys of myomectomies, in the journeys of all of the underlying conditions that we know of and that some that have not been revealed yet. God, we want you to speak a holy word into the ears and the hearts and the minds of those that need to be reminded of your power, because we know our circumstances are not just there to take us down. They are there for us to learn not what our will is, but what your will is, God. They are there for us to rejoice in not what our power is, but what you are capable of, God. Let us continue to open up and talk to one another. That no egg, that no sperm, that no person that wants to nurture another human being be left behind. Whether it is a child already on this earth looking for a parent, God, bring them together. Whether it is a spirit of an unborn baby, God, that you know you will sow into that womb, bring that baby into that womb. Father God, for everybody here that needs a miracle that they can write down so that they always remember it, God, we ask in your holy name to give it to them.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
My
Woo.
sweet friend, I thank you. You got to do this again.
Anytime, whenever you want me back, Kelly, you are the best. I knew
You
it was going to
are
be
the best.
fun.
You
Oh,
are,
God,
listen, my mom
man.
has said several times, I hope y'all were blessed by that prayer. My mom has said several times, I love her, I love her, I love
Mama
her. And you know,
Sue.
Mama Sue was born in Macon, Georgia. So, you know, you
Oh,
have,
we might be cousins, quietly.
we might be cousins. So I want y'all to please put up some fists, some hearts, some eggs to thank Miss Chiquita Lockley for being here today and showing us all of this love post myomectomy, sharing this time with us. We love you. I'm always here for you. You know that. You're going to be back on Warrior Wednesday, okay?
Look forward to it, and thank you for having me.
This was life. All right, y'all. I'm going to post this and I'm going to text you after. Okay, baby
All
girl.
right,
Thank you.
bye.
Love you guys. Mwah. Bye. You guys, listen. Somebody said, love you, Kelly. It's Renee. Hey, Renee. Hey, y'all. Thank you for those fists. I just have to thank Chiquita and Patience. Wow. This took me by surprise. The amount of information and love and just realness, real Black girl realness that we experienced today. I hope that it was a blessing to you, because it was a blessing to me. And I'm going to be praying for all of you. Thank you for joining. Please share this with a friend. I'm about to go get a COVID test so that I know that I'm negative to go home and see my mama. All right. So I will see y'all next Wednesday. I love y'all. Thank you for stopping by. Okay. Peace and blessings. Bye.